Hello, I'm Rick Hansen. As a young person growing up in rural British Columbia, I thought I had the whole world by the tail. I knew where I was going and how to get there. I was an all-star athlete, and the whole life that I had revolved around physical activity and the use of my legs. And then one day when I was 15, I was hitchhiking home from this fishing trip and I climbed into the back of the pickup truck with my buddy. The driver crashed, and the force of that crash propelled me backwards to the ground, and I landed on the corner of this big steel toolbox, and my back just snapped like a twig. It was pretty devastating when I learned that I'd never walk again. I spent 4 months in a hospital and 3 more months in a rehab center. And the next reality to contend with was actually returning home to Williams Lake, a rural community. At that time, there weren't any ramps or curb cuts, only stairs and obstacles. I faced these challenges, and I realized at the same time that they were difficult, but my biggest obstacle was having to deal with my own attitude about my limitations and myself. I constantly then was focusing on what I couldn't do instead of what I could do. But family, friends, healthcare professionals, and role models all rallied around me, and they were there to help me deal with the crisis of the moment and see the possibilities that were in front of me. They made me recognize that in spite of the fact that I had a disability, I was still the same person, Rick. A pioneer, an adventurer, and an athlete. I recognized that the definition of an athlete doesn't depend on whether you use your legs in order to excel. I began to set goals, focus on wheelchair basketball, wheelchair track, and marathoning. I was able to participate in events all around the world, meeting some truly world-class athletes and winning world championships along the way. I also learned to understand the importance of not only setting goals for my personal life, but to reach back and help others along the way. The people who made a difference in my life, they infused me with a sense of profound gratitude, appreciation, and responsibility to use my talents, passions, and interests to make a difference in the lives of others. This belief that I had a responsibility to give back was the real motivation for my Man in Motion World Tour. When I traveled around the world, competing in international competitions, everywhere I went, I realized that barriers people with disabilities were facing were just there. It just wasn't my experience alone, it was everyone's experience. And I wanted to do something about that. I decided that I'd wheel around the world to change those attitudes, to challenge people to think about the potential inside of people with disabilities if barriers were removed. Barriers that just didn't have to be there, both physical and attitudinal. The tour wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the encouragement that I received from friends, family, and literally thousands of people around the globe who all united to come together to help me make my dream a reality. It was amazing. After 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, 40,000 kilometers of wheeling, I arrived back to Vancouver and pushed through a banner that symbolized the completion of my journey. And as I went through that banner, I looked behind me and I saw the sign that said, "Welcome home, Rick." I looked again and then I noticed, wow, it says, "The end is just the beginning." Wow, I have an understanding now of what those words really meant, because the tour was over, but the dream had just begun. When I set out on my Man in Motion tour 25 years ago, I wanted to demonstrate the potential of people with physical disabilities when barriers were removed. Now, as I celebrate the 25th anniversary of my global journey, I can appreciate just how far we've come towards reaching that goal, but also recognize how much work still lies ahead. And as the general population ages, the community of people living with physical disabilities is greatly expanded. And along with this comes the need for a built environment that anticipates these changing demographics. Access, it no longer refers to that narrow list of accommodations for people living with physical disabilities such as mobility, hearing, or vision impairment. Accessible environments today also have to anticipate that the changing needs of older adults and seniors as they account for a rapidly growing segment of the global population. Aging also increases the number of workers with reduced agility and mobility. So in a society with greater environmental awareness, developing greener, more sustainable buildings has become a priority. However, in that rush to build green, accessibility is often ignored. Sustainability is more than just energy and conservation. True sustainability requires that built environment that sustains people too. Through the years, I've seen some real promising changes in both work and play spaces. And with continued progress, I look forward to that future where every place will be accessible and inclusive without exception. And it's with that in mind, and as part of the 25th anniversary of my Man in Motion World Tour, the Rick Hansen Foundation is addressing global accessibility. This initiative is an international effort to improve the quality of life of those living with physical disabilities by demonstrating that practical, consistent online information on venue accessibility, enabling engaged, informed choices, increased independence, and building communities that embrace full participation and inclusivity. We also need to match awareness with our expectations of the public and leaders with legislative and regulatory processes, ensuring that things don't fall through the cracks when buildings, public infrastructure, transportation, and communications are being developed. We want to ensure these things are built seamlessly with accessibility in mind. So, from my perspective, the ultimate goal is to make sure no one is excluded. Our vision is to create an accessible and inclusive society where people living with physical disabilities have equal opportunity to participate and contribute to all aspects of their community. So I hope you'll join me on this continued journey to make a difference. When you embark on your Access Audit project, you'll learn about the great strides your community has made for improved access over the last 25 years. And you'll also gain an understanding of the challenges that still exist. Work hard on that project. Share what you've learned with others, and you will become a difference maker. And together, we'll get there faster. Thanks for being part of my team, and never give up on your dreams.